Bernard Tobin here for Real Agriculture. Today I'm joined by Grain Farmers of Ontario Chair Mark Brock. He joins us from his farm near Staffa, Ontario. Mark, thanks for taking the time.
Hey, no problem.
Hey, it's late April here. Any planting going on out your way?
There's a few of the larger operators who have a good amount of acres that need to go in have started last week. A few guys have put in a little bit of corn just to iron out any kinks that might be in the equipment, and I think a lot of us are hoping that it warms up, and once it does, it's going to be a madhouse.
You got it. Hey, we'll get back to planting in a minute, but first let's talk about the Ontario Court of Appeal's dismissal of your case against the province's seed treatment regulations. It's been almost a week. After some time to mull it over, how do you assess the court's decision?
Well, I think, in all honesty, we realized this was going to be an uphill battle no matter what. But we still felt we had a strong case. But as you can see, the Court of Appeals has denied the right for our case to be heard. But I think the silver lining in the whole situation is that, they looked at it and understand that we have lost access to products, and it is going to have an impact on our farms, and they identified that within the write-up of their decision. So, it's not like it was a frivolous case. They understood the situation and just didn't have a legal grounds to help us out.
Right. So what have you learned about the courts and the appeal process, Mark? Does it provide a reasonable opportunity to make your case to get recourse for grain farmers?
Well, I think the tough part about all this is that as farmers, we're very practical people, and we think that the court system should be as practical. And I think we found out that it is very detailed and has a lot of rules and stuff like that. So I think the one thing all of us have kind of realized out of this is that just because we feel like it isn't a practical regulation doesn't mean it's going to work in our favor legally. So I think that's one lesson we can take away from this process.
Now, what are you hearing from the membership, from your membership? You've always said, this fight is about sound science, it's about principle. Do they want you to continue the fight?
Well, I think a lot of us have, looked at and said, okay, there's 2 times now in the courts that we've lost. I don't think there's a lot of appetite for us to keep going through the court system. And I think that's kind of why we've looked more at this economic impact to actually put some hard numbers to what's going on. So from a membership standpoint, from what I've heard by the vast majority of our members, is that they basically have said, thanks guys for doing this for us. We appreciate it. We felt like it needed done, and it is what it is. And whatever you can do to continue to help us out on this situation, please do so.
Yeah. Now, you alluded to it. You hired BDO to conduct an audit of the impact of the new regulations and what impact they're going to have on grain farmers over the next 3 years. Is that the future strategy, I guess, to document the impact of not having access to seed treatments like Neonics, for example?
Yeah, for sure, because I think no matter what, we can all say this situation has set a precedence, and I think we need to document this process. We've had comments from producers that have said this is the most intrusive regulation that they've ever dealt with, and they've been farming for, 30-plus years. And I think it is a responsibility of us and the industry to document what this is costing us, the impact it is having on our farms, so that whether we can influence change on this existing regulations, but hopefully we can have influence on any thoughts on new ones or adding more products to this whole process.
Yeah. Now, I'm sure you're sort of working with BDO to work how this can be implemented. But what data do you want to capture here? What do you want to collect? And I guess what story do you hope to tell?
Well, I think it's one of those situations where I think we want to document issues that have resulted in replant because they haven't had access to the product, or their pest assessment said they didn't need it, and yet they still had stand loss. What's the time involved? I've talked to a couple of people, just farmer seed dealers, that said they got over 100 hours wrapped up in helping producers just with their paperwork that wasn't there before. Even as producers, what's the cost going to be as we move into a more restrictive regulation that next year, because we don't have access to 50% without all the pest assessments. So, this is just I think a lot of producers forget that this is just the start of it, and it's they're kind of what they quote unquote call a transition year, and next year it's going to be even more restrictive.
Right. Hey, so I mean, I guess that begs the question. Do you think this government is going to be willing to listen to documented factual evidence?
Well, I guess
question.
My hope is that they will. And I think it's important to have that. We are going to hit an election. I know it seems a little bit away, but we are going to have one June 2018. So I think we need to build a case around this to challenge all parties about the situation. How it's important to have good, strong, factual-based regulations in place that support industry, not tear it down.
Right. Hey, obviously that story is probably going to begin to be written in the weeks ahead. Let's wrap up with a little talk on weather here. I'm looking at a forecast. We're barely going to hit 15 degrees over the next 2 weeks in southwestern Ontario. Your thoughts on what impact that could have on seed that's not going to receive seed treatment because of these regulations.
Well, I think the agronomist in me says that this is going to be the year that if you need a seed treatment, a Neonic seed treatment, this is the one, because we could have seed lay in the ground here for 3 weeks plus. Where we've been actually quite fortunate over the last 3 or 4 years where we've had seed plant and emerge fairly quickly. So when we get into these situations where the seed's in the ground longer, there's just that much more risk involved.
Right. Well, hey, we hope you guys get on the land pretty soon. Get out there and get planting. Thanks for your time today, and we'll talk again on this one, I know, in the future.
No problem. I appreciate the opportunity.